Hello indie game fans, August closes off very strongly with a number of developers who decided to release their game on the 31st, which means that we have a great batch of games to look forward to in this edition of Indie Gaming this week. Let's begin with Guts and Goals, a pixel art arcade soccer title that just looks zany and fun. I don't care much for simulation football games, since that's not my sport of choice, but add in wacky characters, powers, weapons, and some beat-em-up elements and you got my attention. It's vibrant, cute, and looks to have variety due to the different game modes, making this one of interest.
Allie Barlow is your average everyday teenager who's in for the ride of her life. When gangsters threaten to take over the family video store, she needs to raise some big money to save the day.
If you want to talk about a game dripping in style, the big con does get up there, since it knows what it wants to be, where you play as a con artist in the 90s, trying to get the cash she needs in order to save her family's video store. The art is exceptional, with suburban malls that look right out of the 90s, at least based on US TV shows that I've watched, with puzzle and stealth elements that rounds off the package.
The Big Con is the 90s crime adventure you've been waiting for. What do you think, Rad Ghost? Okay.
I mentioned Totemlands in one of my videos covering action-adventure games, where this adds chill-looking life sim elements where you're raising totem poles, hunting down spirits, and getting upgrades in order to get to the next area. The player character does look very much like Villager from Animal Crossing, where I do love the chill vibes of this, despite there being some light combat elements. Still, if you're a fan of games like Terraria and Stardew Valley, do give this a go. City Builder fans rejoice! A game that will be of interest is Tinytopia, having you build miniature towns and cities and just looks adorable. It's not just a simple city builder, but plays with the concepts of physics and stacking objects like a child, looking to be something different in the space, which does look wonderful. If not for multiple delays, Monster Harvest would have been much higher on my list, since it's a monster taming RPG with farming elements which combines two of my favourite genres, so let's hope it finally makes it to launch, although the level of polish may come into question given the development cycle. You're exploring the world of Planimal Point, growing mutant plant-animal hybrids, and using them to fight against an evil organization with some wonderful pixel art and cute monster designs. One of the most impressive modern CRPGs is Pathfinder Kingmaker from 2018, where its sequel, Wrath of the Righteous, launches this week. It's set in the Pathfinder tabletop RPG universe, being quite a classic high fantasy world that is realized beautifully in 3D by developer Owlcat Games, a team that is about 60 persons strong, making them not so indie, but this title looks fantastic and will be of interest to fans of the genre.
Our world. Their master, the demon lord Daskari, thinks he can break our spirit. He is mistaken. We did not yield when our cities burned, when our fortresses were turned to dust, and our comrades, our brothers and sisters in arms, valiantly met their deaths. We have suffered through many a plight, and now it is our turn to strike. To arms, brothers and sisters! I declare that the Fifth Crusade has begun, and it is you who will lead us in this war. Duty calls to you. Prove your worth as a leader. Hone your skills and abilities. Ready your best armor and weapons for battle. Mount your trusty war steed and charge forth, and we shall follow. This will be a daunting task, I know, but you need not fight alone. Your faithful companions will stand by your side. They will protect you in battle, aid you with their counsel, share the burden of commanding the crusade. Accept their friendship and become their friend in turn, or possibly something more. I understand the trials ahead of you are great. You will have to find your own path. What will be the source of your power? The righteous might of heaven, or the secrets of forbidden magic? Will you make your sacrifices in the name of freedom and equality, or in the name of law and order? Will your enemies flee at the very sight of you, or will you, perhaps, turn this entire war into a grand joke on a cosmic scale? Choose carefully. Your every decision has its consequences and its price. But most importantly, never doubt that Galarian believes in you. And I believe in you as well. Do you feel the ground shaking? That is the march of your army. Lead them, aim them at their target, crush our enemies. We are crusaders. We are the wrath of the righteous. The stakes have never been higher. We did not seek out this war. It invaded our home, and our world now depends on you, and you alone.
A little known fact about developer Bossa Studios is that they are actually quite a large studio of about 70 people, making them not so indie as well, where the wacky physics sim Surgeon Simulator 2 launches on Steam this week after previously being an Epic exclusive.
In a world, well, it's just a medical facility, really, where one patient is really sick. A lot. I mean, seriously, what's wrong with this guy? 4 surgeons, 3 scalpels, 2 lungs, 1 lung, 0 time off. Because here, malpractice makes mal perfect. Surgeon Simulator 2. Coming soon. Surgeon Simulator 2 may cause nausea, vomiting, aches, pain, broken limbs, missing limbs, extra limbs, injury, near-death experience, actual death experience. The warning may contain enjoyment.
Let's kick off smaller games with A Journey Through Valhalla, a third-person action-adventure RPG that was made by 3 friends in their spare time, looking alright and maybe worth a look. There have been a number of tycoon games focusing on the aspect of transportation and moving things around, where Cargo Company is the latest to do so, and in a similar fashion will be an early access title. I just mentioned Clid The Snail in my video on new games from Gamescom, where it looks like a great top-down shooter and is already launching on PS5 and 4 this week, with the Steam release at a later date, but the action does look great, so do check it out.
哇塞，现在我会跟你说，儿子，我这个就是想母亲。
I cannot believe that somehow, some way, Cookie Clicker is getting a Steam version in 2021, one of the OGs of idle or clicker games that spawned an entire genre of its own. For you young people out there who were not on the internet in 2013, this title had you clicking on a cookie in order to get more cookies, using these to eventually get upgrades and factories to automate the clicking process, having one of the most compelling gameplay loops ever and got many people hooked. For veterans or people who just dabbled, this game has had constant updates since 2013, all of which is packaged together in this version, so check out one of the most significant titles if you have not. I love the look of Dwerve, an action tower defense game where you play as a dwarf fending off monsters, getting a prologue demo this week. Another battle simulator title enters the fray with Epic Fantasy Battle Simulator, one that is self-explanatory, and does look to allow you to recreate Lord of the Rings in this.
In the Wild West, there are two kinds of fighters. Those with grit, and those others.
I couldn't find much information on this developer, so it may not be indie, but Grit is a battle royale title set in the Wild West, looking alright and could be neat.
A Wild West Royale. The fastest guns in the West. Battle to the death. So grab your guns. Ride like the devil's chasing you. Keep your hat on. And kill 'em dead.
Like Dwerve above, Jack X The Trial is a demo version of a pixel art action platformer from a Filipino developer, looking pretty cool, so do give it a go. I have a soft spot for Sokobond puzzle games since some of my earliest gaming memories are in that exact genre, so if you're like me, do check out Puzzledorf this week. We don't see many 3D action roguelites since there's a tendency for janky things like clipping and physics issues, so Rogue Spirit is somewhat of a rarity where you have the ability to possess enemies, combining both stealth and action elements, but do note that it will be releasing in early access. The 1.0 release of Rustler did show up at Gamescom as well, where the open-world medieval GTA game has been in early access for about 6 months and is pretty hilarious in what you can do. In a week filled with great games, I was very selective with the ports of the week, but the amazing chemistry puzzle game Sokobond on Switch gets a special mention for how good it is. The hand-drawn art style of The Last Shot has to be the highlight, where this adventure game has you playing as an engineer in a diesel punk world where massive war machines threaten your home, so it is up to you to throw the proverbial wrench into the works. It came to my attention recently that developer Nerduk Productions, who is a Flash game legend, is a solo developer from Malaysia, so Southeast Asia represent, where his latest title is The Magister, a detective title crossed with turn-based card battler RPG, so it certainly is unique. We've seen a ton of World War II shooters, so I thought that WW2 Bunker Simulator was something interesting, having you play as a soldier manning a bunker, having to live, train and fend off enemies in a first-person simulator kind of fashion, which is different. Finally, for smaller games, we have YuuYuu Jiteki no Yuukarin, where I hope that I'm pronouncing that right, but this is a vibrant action platformer that looks awesome, and in digging a little deeper, is actually a Toho fan project, showing truly how immense the reach of that really is. Taiwanese developer Sigono Inc. has some of the most impressive and beautiful games, with both Opus The Day We Found Earth in 2016 and Opus Rocket of Whispers in 2018, all of which are beautiful, emotional adventure games, where their latest entry is Opus Echo of Star Song and looks to follow a similar path. It's a sci-fi entry where our heroine has the ability to hear mysterious sound waves known as star songs, and our hero is searching for the source of these, teaming together on an epic journey across the stars. It's one of the most beautiful sci-fi universes that I have seen, evoking a similar vibe to Far Lone Sails, but more like a traditional adventure game, but for how great this looks, it gets a spot. One of the most adorable titles that I've had my eye on is Kiwi, somewhat of a clever title, where you and a friend play as two kiwi birds running a post office, having to work together, jumping on buttons and pulling levers in order to get the mail and packages sent out on time. I do think that the co-op multiplayer space is filled with titles like Overcooked, so it's a nice change of pace to see a game specially designed for two players like this. It's just the cutest concept for a game, so I do hope that it's executed well, since it sure looks like fun with a friend, so grab a buddy and dive in. A game which had a relatively short hype cycle is Golf Club Wasteland, announced just a couple of months ago and is already being released. I'm on record saying that I don't like the sport of golf, but somehow indie developers find ways and means of getting me interested in it, where the draw here for me is the setting. This is set in the future in the post-apocalypse, where humanity is all but wiped out except for the rich, who manage to flee to Mars and now take leisurely trips back to Earth in order to play golf. There's a depressing undertone to the entire thing, but it looks neat, with a retro, in quotes, radio station playing 2020 classics, so how's that for taking things into perspective? Having made my list of the best upcoming games like Stardew Valley, it's no wonder that I'm excited for Kitaria Fables, which finally launches this week. It's a farming sim crossed with a Zelda-style action-adventure title, giving you some action if you're not purely into the farming aspect. Oh, and it does have some absolutely adorable animals as well, all set in quite a classic fantasy world with magic, golems and slimes, looking to be pretty sweet. If you're a fan of grimdark action, I'm sure that Song of Iron will be of interest to you, a title where you carve a path through your enemies with some of the most brutal looking combat. It has a cinematic quality to the action, of epic vistas, massive monsters, and one man's quest for vengeance, where he lets nothing stand in his way, man, monster, and even nature itself. I do wonder about what the combat feels like, looking deliberate, with perhaps a hint of a Souls game. I'm just wholly impressed with the presentation, everything from the framing, camera, lighting and even background elements, and having done so, earns it its #1 spot. For more action platformer titles, watch these videos and I will see you after the jump.